turn to our first panel of the day, Orchestrated Success, Women in the Fatherhood Movement. You're going to enjoy this. I would first like to take the chance to introduce our moderator. And ladies, if you want to go ahead and come up as I introduce you, Geneva Ware-Rice. Ms. Ware-Rice is the founder and executive director of His Sparrow Family Center, a nonprofit fatherhood organization located in Prince George's County, Maryland. She has over 40 years of social services experience focused on child and family services. She has enjoyed a broad career experience in working with children and families as a social worker, a teacher, a federal project officer, and branch chief. Thank you so much for being here today, Ms. Ware-Rice. She will be our moderator. Joining us as a panelist today is Avis Files, the program director for Pathway Incorporated in Toledo, Ohio. Ms. Files has worked in the social service arena for over 25 years in the areas of domestic violence, drug addiction, housing and homelessness, and in the area of healthy relationships. She has facilitated healthy relationship curriculum with her husband, Michael, for over 9 years. Ms. Files, we're so glad you could be here today with us. Our next panelist is Cherie Tillis. She is the CEO of the award-winning and nationally recognized Father and Family Support Center, FFSC, formerly Fathers Support Center, St. Louis. Ms. Tillis has also served as the principal investigator on several fatherhood research studies with Mathematics Policy and Research, Washington University Brown School of Social Work, and the Brown School Evaluation Center in St. Louis, Missouri. Ms. Tillis, we appreciate you taking part on this panel today.
Thank you.
Wrapping up our panel is Patricia Littlejohn, who has 30 plus years of foundation and nonprofit leadership, programming, development, advocacy, and communications experience, and has been an active pioneer and leader in the national fatherhood movement since 1997. Ms. Littlejohn was instrumental in forming a partnership between the foundation and South Carolina Department of Social Services that led to the creation of the South Carolina Center for Fathers and Families to grow and sustain the Fatherhood Initiative. It's an honor to have you here, Mrs. Littlejohn.
Yeah.
All right, and we'll hold some time for Q&A. We'll get ready, and here's Ms. Ware-Rice as our moderator.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. It is so exciting to be here. I have been waiting for this opportunity. Dr. Nielsen, I don't know if you're in the room. These lights are blinding me, but you set this thing up. We did not speak. I didn't know her. I'd never heard her, but we are going to continue that conversation about allies. And we are here to present. I am so excited to be with these ladies who have been leaders a long time working in fatherhood, working for families, and just to share so much information. And did you all know that in the state of Tennessee, in your Department of Human Services and your child welfare, that your workforce is 85% women? Did you know that? Of course you did, right? So women are already working with and on the behalf of fathers. And we are here to salute you, thank you, and to tell a little bit about your story and to encourage you if we can. This morning, we're going to be talking about women as leaders in fatherhood, as practitioners, and as advocates. And we are hoping that we can address your questions. So write them down. We are here. We are so excited. So let's get started. All right, ladies, are you ready?
Ready. Ready.
All right. Now, as a leader in fatherhood, how do you message fatherhood to those who might not understand the feel? And I'm going to start with you, Avis, because you're right here.
All right. Fatherhood is simply the act of a man being present in his children's lives, no matter what. Here's our 1-minute message. Pathway Incorporated, Brothers United, believes that children are important. So every day, and we do mean every day, we support and advocate for fathers, because when children have involved fathers, the whole community thrives. That's the reason why we exist, because we want our communities to be better. We want our children to not gangbang and do all of those things. Without having the father present, we're going to have those things in the community. If we want to eliminate it, then we just need to make sure we do our work. We must love our fathers, right? We say we love our children, but we must love our fathers first, because if we love our children, then we will love our fathers.
All right, Sherry.
Right. So first off, at the organization, our vision is that every father is a responsible father committed to cohesive family relationships. And so anytime I go out and speak to an audience that's not really familiar with the field, I first start off by saying fathers are parents and fathers love their children. And think about your father. What's your fatherhood story? That sometimes softens the conversation, because everyone has a story about their father, because everyone has a father. The other thing I talk about is that there's not a parenting handbook, and there's definitely not one for fathers. In the state of Missouri, fathers that are never married, non-custodial, have one right, and that's the right to pay child support. Isn't that pitiful? And so every other right has to be won in a court of law. And so, you know, I talk about the fact that we need to figure out how to correct this wrong that has happened within our state. How do we make sure that fathers are an active participant in the lives of their fathers? I get the other practitioners to think about what is at stake when fathers aren't there. We've heard a lot over the last 2 days that have spoken exactly to that. And then that's kind of gets people thinking about, you know what, I should be thinking about the fathers. I should be inviting both parents to conferences. I should reach out to dads. One of the key things that we do is when fathers are at risk for their children going into foster care, we work with those social service practitioners to identify and find those dads. It's just about making sure that he's understood and represented in that family picture. So our messaging points to exactly that. We just try to make sure that we emphasize his importance in that family structure.
Great. Thank you, Sherry. All right, Pat, bring us home.
All right. So when I first started in the fatherhood field in the mid and late 90s, the fatherhood movement was really getting off of the ground and getting traction. And it was very much male-led, and it was very much male-centric, as it should have been. That was the right place to start. Make no mistake about it. But honestly, there were times that I didn't feel 100% welcomed at the table. At the same time, it felt like the start of the fatherhood movement threw gasoline on the fire ignited by women's rights groups. And they became out in full force of saying, how dare the federal government take money away from women and children and give it to men to support grant programs? How dare men advocate for fathers to be re-engaged with their children and in relationships and co-parenting with the women and that they've abused? And so in the beginning, there was just this fierce, as Dr. Nielsen described it, polarized view about the fatherhood movement. But two things happened. One, we got a little bit smarter about get over yourselves and let's focus on the children, because this is what we're about, number one. And number two, the men wised up and said, there is an important place at the table for women to advocate for men, just like women welcome men as advocates in the movement against domestic violence and in the advocacy of women's rights. Men were a part of that movement. And it was just as important that women be a part of this fatherhood movement, because I can say some things to other women that I can say it in a way that perhaps she will hear it and I can convince it in a way that men can't, number one. And number two, I can also say sometimes to a woman, you know, get over yourself and let's talk about the importance of fathers. And I can be an advocate for fathers in a way on behalf to women and for women and for fathers in a way that sometimes men just can't. Right. And so I think that what started out has now come into a very much a welcomed place that I think we all agree that there's a place for women and their voice and their influence at this table.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you, Pat. This brings me to, ladies, you all have worked in this field. You all are considered leaders. You all have activated allies. And so what I want to ask you is, how did you go about activating that support system, those allies? And why? Why did you do this work? How did you get into this work? No one came and got you and said, Avis, Pat, Sherry, get on over here and do this fatherhood stuff. So what in the world did you do? And I can tell you how many women said, what are you doing? Why are you working in fatherhood? You know, they got everything, just what we saw yesterday. So I'm going to start with Sherry.
So for me, some of it I inherited. The other day, you all heard a name that was thrown out, Halbert Sullivan. He was the founder of Fathers and Family Support Center. He was a social worker from the Brown School in St. Louis. And a lot of the state work and advocacy work he actually did while he was founding the organization. When I came on board, it was 2003, and we were already running family formation programs. I was coming from the Division of Youth Services, working with youth. And so I knew a lot about how the state functioned and what the state respected. And one thing that the state respected was policy work. And so a lot of the work I did was around policy and procedure, protocols. And once we kind of got that thing tight, I was able to go out and talk to different groups. Mr. Sullivan actually actively attended domestic violence provider meetings, because we would get calls from domestic violence programs that said, we want you all to do a batterer's intervention program. And we were like, why? Our fathers aren't batterers. We are parents. We do parenting programs. And so then they wanted to come over and see. And so that's how we gained a lot of our allies. We would invite them in to come and observe what we were doing. And then we would ask them, now, what do you want to present to the men? What piece of this puzzle do you want to add? How can you help them to move forward in what they're doing to become better parents and active in their children's lives? After that work, we actively sought out researchers. And Mr. Sullivan would tell the researchers, we're going to work together. And if not, I'm going to be on you like a cheap suit. So then we began, collecting data and actually testing out different curriculum, doing measurements and collecting data. So we had the universities lined up that wanted to work with us. But then the state came and we approached them with sugar dripping from our lips. Child support is not the enemy. The only thing child support is trying to do is collect dollars so that children can be taken care of. And that's the exact same thing we would like to do. And so child support came on board. They came and did presentations for us. We had nurses and doctors. We had a male health and wellness and reproductive program that we pieced together. But of course, we don't know what we're doing. We need a doctor or a nurse to come over and talk to the guys. So every component that we built the program with, we actually invited the experts in that field to come and actually do it for us. We created that village for the fathers, and we had a captive audience. We were enrolling about 100 participants per cohort. There's 6 cohorts a year, 4 locations. And so if you have a nutrition program and you can't enroll dad the first, go over to Fathers and Family Support Center. They have the dads sitting there waiting. So that's just how we did it. Anyone that wanted to reach that population that we were serving, we made a place for them, and they became our allies. They would speak up for us before we would have to say a word.
Thank you. How about you, Pat?
Well, you can't do this work and not have allies and partners in it. I mean, you're just going to fall flat if you don't, because with the issues that men need, they need access to resources and networks. And so you're really doing a disservice to fathers if the only person and resource they ever get to know and meet is you. Right. You have failed them, because part of what we, in working with fathers, is showing them and teaching them how to navigate systems and how to seek out resources that give them the support that they need in what they're doing with fathers. So if you're not working with partners, you're doing the fathers a disservice. You need to introduce them to every possible resource, network, person, contact that they can have in order to move forward. And I think one of the things that we found was very helpful is that, I guess, first of all, for people who know me, I'll talk about fatherhood to anybody and everybody. And I retired about 1.5 years ago, and you can see I still have not shut up talking about fathers anywhere and everywhere I go. God bless the Uber driver yesterday. For 45 minutes, but guess what? I'll tell you more about that. But anyway, but my point about all of that is that one of the important things and one of the strategies in these networks is to offer to do father-friendly training at those organizations, because sometimes people don't know what they don't know, and they don't understand their connection and their place at the table and their value in this. And when you offer to do father-friendly training for them, you'll see, oh, well, we could do this and we could do that, and this is how we could help. And I never thought about that. So not only do you seek partners, but you have to sometimes educate them and help them see their place at the table.
Great. Avis, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'd like to say that I'm first an ally to the father. And so my light is always to the father first. I'm his ally. And so when I become his ally, then everybody else can see that. And I'm hoping that that fire catches on. I think that one of the things that I did, I just was a very loud voice in my community. So 2 stories, like people are known when I walk in the room that I'm going to ask the question, what about the father? Right? So we were on a Healthy Start grant. We are sub-grantee to them, and their logo had a mother and a child. And I was like, hey, y'all got to fix this. And they're like, we don't know. We need to talk to national people. I don't care who you have to talk to. Go ahead and talk to whoever you got to talk to. But your logo says that the father is not included. It took me 1 year. Every single time we had a meeting, if it was a CQI meeting, I was asking about that logo. It didn't even have nothing to do with nothing. I'm like, what about the logo? Every time, right? So, and sitting in the back of those rooms. And then we became allies differently, because I'm kind of like a fighter, not that you could tell or whatever, but so I would send my male staff to the agencies and would say, tell me what's not father friendly. Go and say you want to know about child support arrears, like how to remove your arrears. And they would come back and I'm like, get the person's name, get the time that you went. And then I would go to child support and say, hey, Julie, they sit at the front desk, she rude. This is the date, this is the time, here's what she said. We need to work with her. And then I was able to go in and do the family, then do the father-friendly training, right? So being able to really challenge the systems. And then I would send mothers in to ask how could they sign off on the child support, because we found that out, right? And the worker was like, why would you want to do that? And so then I was like, hey, Karen, on yesterday, I was there, right? And so built that and then found a way to get in and then challenge those systems. And then having men as having the father as an ally teaching men how to navigate those systems were very important for us. And so then I built allies because my men would go in and not say baby mom or baby daddy. If you're using that in your program, can you stop doing that? Because it's real disrespectful and it's not good at all. You can literally teach people co-parenting right out the gate. If I'm talking to a man and I'm recruiting him and I say, how you doing, dad? And he like, my baby mama be tripping. Did you say co-parent? You're co-parent because you're co-parent and she's co-parent? Rephrase that for me, bro, right? And so we do that in meetings and in situations, and that's how we were able to build allies because they kind of figured, well, she's not going to go away. She's going to keep talking, so we might as well work with her.
Great, thank you. All right, ladies, let's switch to practitioners. How do you become, as a woman, how do you become a fatherhood practitioner? How did that happen? All right, Ava, since you're on a roll, keep going, girl.
All right, find somebody else to do it. How about that, God? Don't call me. That was my initial, right? So I started out having all male staff, male leaders. I was the program director, but I just kind of sat in the back, didn't go to the meetings. Well, that didn't work. It just didn't work. It didn't fly. And so I said to myself, I just had the revelation, like I'm praying like, okay, God, like this is not working. I got these millions of dollars from the Fed. It's like, this is going to be a bad look if I let this down, right? And he was like, yeah, you're up. And I was like, up for what? So I got my bat and I was like, you're up, sis, swing. And I had no intentions of being the leader. But I think that what happened is that I know that I was called to do it, right? And it took me a minute because on one hand, I had men saying, women are not supposed to do this. A woman can't tell a man how to be a man. I was like, well, I'm not trying to tell him how to be a man. I'm teaching fatherhood skills. Like, that's not my role anyway, right? I'm talking about parenting. That's not about being a man. It's about being a parent. And then on the other hand, I had women on the other side that were like, who you think you are? Right? Like, who she thinks she is coming here speaking on behalf of men. And so it was not easy, right? I actually had practitioners, and I'm just going to say it, big guys in the field that didn't invite me to the table. I'd be walking by. I'm like, I wish they asked me to go out to dinner. They asking all the dudes, like, y'all going to dinner afterwards? I'm standing there like, I want to go. And then I was like, you ain't got to go. Just do what you do. Right. And so just making a way and just following the call to be a leader, right, in this work, because I care about fathers. Not that I don't care about white fathers, but I am particularly care about Black fathers just because it's the culture and that's where I was raised. But I particularly care about Black fathers and not being ashamed to say that and to do that, and then actually getting to the work and then not rocking it out, right? So that it's not a question. Thank God for OFA. I was able to do a randomized control trial with young men aged 20 to 24. That's from the hood. It's one of the hardest things you can do. But we got it done and we did it during COVID, which is even more boss, right? So having those experiences then let me be able to say, now I can stand up on a fatherhood platform and the bricks of fatherhood and be able to stand up strong and say it works. And if you're a woman, you can work it if you work it.
Right. If you work it. Amen. Amen. All right. Sherry, anything to add to that, honey?
I would definitely say God chose me. I definitely did not choose this. I did not. But my birthright chose me. I am the product of a blended family, a father that had 3 sons. And when I found out that my brothers had a different mother, I became a social worker because I had to figure out how in the world did my 3 brothers have a different mom, but my other sister has a different dad, and then I'm the bridge. And so that just got me curious about family dynamics and how this thing works. After I mentioned I worked at Division of Youth Services. God placed me in a classroom with the sister of the founder of the organization I now work with. And I said, okay, we're closing. Give your brother my resume. Let's just see what he says. And at that time, he wanted an MSW from WashU that was male to follow in his footsteps. that wasn't my story. So when I came on, I just got in where I fit in. You need me to teach class today while you go get the dollars? Okay, I'm teaching class today. You need me to do a training for the staff to show them how to do motivational interviewing? Okay, I'm doing that. You need me to go get my master's degree in management because y'all don't have good management skills? Okay, I got that. I'm going to do HR now. Okay, so you need me to go to the healthy marriage prep curriculum training because we're going to do this as a man and a female facilitate. Got you on that. So really, I just accepted the challenge, and you couldn't outwork me. Sullivan, right. I wake up early in the morning. Me too. So what we doing today? And you know, it was just that type of teamwork that we had. We fought to the finish. And so it was very unexpected, my taking on this CEO role, but who knew? God knew. I was perfectly prepared over 17 years with the founder to take this work to the next level. Yes. And so, you know, it's just one of those things that God doesn't make a mistake. When he chooses you, you may be fearful, you may come feeling like you're inadequate, but by all means, open your mouth and speak the words that you are supposed to speak in that place and time.
Wow, thank you. All right, Pat, you got 1 second or half a second to add to that?
Half a second to add to that. So I would agree that, you know, thank goodness we serve a God with a sense of humor, because I really laughed. I went to y'all, I grew up in a small town, about 2,500 people, attended an all-female college. And then here I found myself in the middle of this, but it was clearly a calling. But to the ladies in the room, I'm going to tell you there are 2 things that you will need to get into this work. And number 1 is a heart for fathers, and a belief that they are valuable and that they are worthy to be a part of their children's lives. So that's number 1. You just got to believe it to your core. And then the second thing is, I'll never forget when I started into this work, we interviewed several really pioneers and leaders in the fatherhood field at that time. And one of them was Charles Ballard. And he said to me at the end of the meeting, and I recorded it, he said, "Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid when you look in their faces, but just answer the call. Who will go? Send me." And I didn't understand that at the time, but I did later, that you have to have great courage in this work. And as a female, and as a white female working in a field in South Carolina that was predominantly African-American men, you can only imagine what people said to me. And my topics of conversation of what do you do at cocktail parties wasn't a popular one. It ended in about 5 seconds, you know, and it was a turn and walk away. Oh, I need to get a drink. And off they go after I started talking about fatherhood. So you need the heart and you need the courage, and don't back down. You'll learn the skills that it takes, and those will come, but you won't survive without those 2 things.
Great. Thank you, Pat. I just have to add, you are so right. You really have to have a heart for fathers. You have to have a heart for families. And I'm going to do a plug here. Avis and I are doing a workshop or a session at 3:30. And it's really talking about why you're there, because you also have to examine yourself and your beliefs about fathers, your own issues with your father. And as Sherry said, everybody has a father. What she's saying is, unless there's a new science, you need an egg and a sperm, okay? And right now, them sperms come from males. I don't care what anybody's saying. So you have a father. You may not know who it is. You may have never had a relationship, but that doesn't mean it doesn't impact who you are. And I'm telling you, last year I turned, well, I'm 66 now. So last year I turned 65. And I never knew my father, guys, never. Well, God is so amazing, because I now know who my father is, because I went to a medical practice and they wanted me to do this 23andMe thing. And they said, especially since you don't know your father, we need to know what's in your DNA. Well, lo and behold, my half brother also did it years ago. He was raised with his father, who happened to be my father. And in 2022, I met my half brother. Oh my God. And my father is deceased, but I know who my father is. You know, when they would put on the paper, what's your father's name? And I'd put unknown. Now his name is James Mitchell Ray. That's my dad. He is deceased. And I never knew him, but I know my half brother, and I have so much information. And I'm telling you guys, it doesn't go away. The pain of not knowing your father, having, or your mother, if you didn't know them, doesn't go away. But here's what I know, and I'm not trying to proselytize, but God takes your pain, if you let him, and turns it into your purpose. If you let him. Now, if you want to stay bitter and mad about it, you do your thing, but you're not helping anybody, and you will not have the richness of life. So I just want you to know, I know who my daddy is. Thank you very much for that. And let me move on. All right, ladies, time is ticking, but I wanted to share, we are very clear that we are not, this is not pitting men against women. We're going to talk about that a little bit more, but I want to talk about, why is it important? Why is it important to have a woman's perspective in the fatherhood field, in the fatherhood movement? Why is that important? Okay, and Pat, let's start with you, sweetie.
All right. So I would say, as women get into this work, I want to give the women a couple of tips on and why women have a valuable place in working with men. But I will say this, that when men came into our program, and we had 6 regional fatherhood programs, 14 locations around the state. One of the things was, if they encountered a female practitioner, they did not care what color she was, whether she was a male or a female. If she had an answer to their question, and particularly a skill to help them correct the situation, I can tell you that one of the most popular persons in our fatherhood program was a female former child support enforcement attorney, and she knew everything about navigating those systems. And those guys would have walked across the backs of the other men in the room to get to her, because they knew she had the answer. But I will say, I think that several things that are really important is that while women have an important perspective, we might have the very needed skills, but the most important thing is that we have to treat men with respect. Yeah. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, number one. And number two, our job is not to turn them into mothers. Right. And I think that's the tendency sometimes of women, is that I'm going to teach you how to parent the way that I parent. And that's not our job. Our job is not to convert men from fathers to mothers. That's not our job. Right. And I think, but we have to learn to, I've often said this, we have to learn when to fold our wings and zip our lips. As women, and you can tell by this panel, we have no shortage of words or things to say. And the more we talk, the less men talk.
Right.
And that's one of the key things, takeaways, that I had to really learn to discipline myself to not ask 57,000 questions, and to ask some leading questions, but then shut up and resist the urge to keep talking. And so I would just give those tips and advice to ladies that are going into the field. I think our perspective is important, but we've got to be skillful in how we do the work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Sherry, anything to add?
Yeah. So back in 2009, we actually adapted a triple P parenting curriculum. Two of the things that we researched is, would this work on African-American urban men, and what would be the difference between this curriculum being facilitated by a male facilitator and a woman facilitator? And after we completed the program and collected the data, the learnings were the same. The retention of the curriculum information was the same. The perspective that we bring to the field is different, and it's needed because we're women. One of the activities that we do in our curriculum is to take a father through the day of a single mom, from the point of waking the kids up, combing the hair, ironing the clothes. If she does not have transportation, catching the bus, dropping them off, going to work, coming back, picking the kids up, going home, cooking dinner, and doing that day after day after day. When a woman brings that day and that perspective, it softens him a bit. He's not as judgmental of her after that is shared with him. So I think that in some regard, we bring a perspective that they hadn't considered before. Also, we have a women's panel that we do, and we bring women that they would date and women that they probably would never have a chance of dating, but would try anyway. And we allow them, we have about 75 questions, and we allow them to ask the women the questions, you know, on that page. You know, what is a woman really looking for? What does she mean when she says this? I think it just gives them insight into our brain, just as complicated as it is. It gives them a little insight to what makes us tick and what we like, what we don't like. And so I think that it just helps them more, especially if they have daughters. You know, it just helps them to understand where we're coming from.
Exactly. Thank you. All right, Avis.
I think the female perspective is key. Being a female practitioner, I get to say things to men that other men can't say. Yeah. Right. And also help them to navigate women. So women, I break our code all the time. We talk about like, how about this? Don't sleep with her if you don't want her. Because like we think we in a relationship. You was just trying to get something. Yeah. Right. So now you have your co-parents are because they both think they with you because you keep sleeping with them. So how about you stop that? Light bulbs go on, right? And they're like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, this is how we're thinking. So being able to say that. And I think also helping to navigate because all of my female practitioners teach all of the curriculum. Shout out to Dr. J. We've been teaching Dr. J's curriculum a long time. But my females facilitate the fatherhood curriculum, right? With a man, sometimes without. Like, because if he's sick, we got to go, right? And so we're able to teach that because we're skilled at it, right? We've been trained and we're skilled at facilitating that curriculum and knowing how to navigate that and then helping it to be a space for healing, right? Then and to eliminate the divide. Right? Because there's clearly a divide sometimes between co-parents, how they work together, how they function together. But sometimes just having a female fatherhood practitioner in the room, he can ask us questions, right? Like, I love her, but I don't really know how to tell her. You know, like I love her, but like, I don't really even know what love is. So like, I'm feeling this, what am I supposed to do with that? And so sometimes my husband will go out the room and I'm able to say, okay, well, you know what, this is how you show her, right? Like, be consistent. Buy her what she like, you know, all of those things.
What's
and help him,
language,
right? What's her love language? Helping him to navigate that. And then talking about the importance sometime when that love is over, how to end that in a healthy way. You don't have to yell. If she's yelling, you know, you could walk away. You could run sometimes if you need to, right? And teaching them when she is talking, how to listen, but not listen, right? Like, I hear what you're saying. That's important. And like she get 20, 30 minutes. And I said, after a while, you know, she'll be quiet. She'll walk away. You're affirmed and it's over. So teaching all of those kind of things, and also just being there, being present for them and loving on them. And then letting them know that in women, they have an ally.
Right. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. All right, ladies, let's move on to our category of advocates. So what does it, how do you message fatherhood programming without pitting moms against dads? Because we don't want to do that, right? That's bad. All right, I'm going to start with you, Sherry.
We always say, look, it doesn't matter the romantic relationship you have or whatever the relationship is that you have with the mother. You all have a child. It is about the child. So you're going to have to take your ego, your personality out of the equation. Because if you want this little person to grow up and have the same issues that you have, keep going in the direction that you're going. But if you want this child to become a responsible, caring, productive adult, then that's what you have to role model in front of this child. So we always tell them it's not about you. It's not about you. It's what type of culture you're creating, what type of thing you're siring within your household. And so we tell them, don't talk bad about the mom. Don't talk bad about the grandmother. Don't talk bad about her side of the family. Give compliments. When they come to visit you, there shouldn't be adult conversations had in front of those children. So we just try to make them see what the actual important part of the scenario is. And it's just that child becoming a productive adult.
All right, great. Pat?
I think a couple of things. One thing that I've learned, for good or bad, is that sometimes in speaking, particularly to groups of women, if you start out immediately diving headfirst into dads are important, they are in key to development of their children and blah, blah, and you'll be into that about 15 minutes into it, and every time there will be a woman in the back of the room. Well, mothers are important too, and they do the same thing, and children couldn't live without mothers. And I get, okay, so we get that. I thought that was already understood. Right. I didn't think we had to have a conversation about that. Mm-hmm. So I have found that sometimes you have to start the conversation with, it's a known fact that women are important to children. Mothers have been doing heroic work for a long, long time. But where today's topic is about fathers. And so sometimes you have to just go ahead and kill that, but so that people will go, okay, she knows that we're important. Mm-hmm. Not like I don't know that. I'm one of you. And so anyway, so that's that. And then, so I think that's, sometimes having to lead with that. But the other one, I'll tell you a story, is we were doing a campaign across South Carolina, and we were doing dad facts, and we were doing all the things, the negative consequences of children. And then we were going to do phase 2 and bring the positive side to it. And a lady called one day, and one of my staff people called and said, there's a lady on the phone that I think you need to talk to. And she was furious. And she was a single mom. And she was basically telling us that our billboards about the negative consequences were traumatizing her son. And that it was making him feel like he was less than or on this path to a life of devastation because he didn't have a father. And she was just furious about this. And I understood, where she was coming from. But at the same time, I said to her, well, what if you had a conversation with your son about what it means when he grows up and one day becomes a responsible father? What will it mean for him so that his children that he will probably one day have grow and thrive? And I think the same message could be for women. What are you going to expect out of the man who fathers your children? And this is what you need to expect. So I think our messaging too isn't always about the message that women need to hear. It's how to help them hear it in a way that they can become better at raising their children with expectations that there will be a father of their children and a father to their grandchildren.
All right, great. All right, Avis, what do you got?
So for me, it's a little bit different because from data, and let me let you know, I just love data, right? Because you can prove your point. And so from data, from working with fathers, about year 2 of us doing Brothers United, the men, all the data start saying, one guy is like, yeah, you need to tell my girl this. Like, I'm going home calling her co-parent and she mad. And he like, she trying to figure it out. Like, so don't you got a program for women? I'm like, no. and so we did not want to do women at all. I was really like, find somebody else to do that, right? And so the data kept saying that. I was sitting next to a young man, 18 years old. And he said, Ms. Fowles, he said, you really need to start a program for the women. And I'm like, I already know it's called Sisters United to match Brothers United, because they would write it out, you know, in their evaluations. This is what you need to do. They named it and all of that. And I was like, yeah, okay. And he looked at me and he said, well, if you don't do it, who gonna do it? And I was like, now you 18 and I'm grown. You're not gonna challenge me. So I wrote the foundation, right? Our local foundation. It was like, here's the data. This is what they're saying. Let's start the Sisters United program. So when I start to teach, and now it's involved into co-parenting. So when I start to teach that, I say to the women, stand up right now and clap for my fathers, because you wouldn't be sitting here without them, because I had no intention of serving you, right? None at all. And so being able to do that is to really show that I'm an ally, even to the women, helps them to understand that we can love our Black men. We can be there for them. We don't have to believe the hype. We don't have to believe all the negative things. We can believe what's true. And I also give them a piece of paper of all the data that also shows and backs up that our fathers are very present and never absent.
All right. Thank you.
All right. I can't wait for this breakout session. You guys are going to be great. We got some Q&A time here. So keep your questions brief so we can get more in, and just pop your hands up and we'll send Mike with the mic over to you. Got a good run in there. Excellent.
He's getting a workout, that's for sure.
I'm gonna come around so y'all can see me. James Wood for First Things First, Dad's Making a Difference. By a show of hands, how many of y'all got a high school diploma and a college degree? On the panel.
Okay.
How many of y'all got a high school diploma or a college degree?
Oh.
Did y'all just see that? Did y'all see me raise my hand? I was told that I couldn't teach the class that I'm now currently teaching. I've been at conferences, and I just started this job 2 years ago. But most thing I don't hear people talk about is opportunities for men like me. So what classes are you guys giving to give opportunities to men to be more important, like I am doing right now for Dad's Making a Difference, First Things First?
Okay. You're going to need to give me that question again, honey.
Oh,
Put that mic closer.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to do it again. How many people got the high school?
No, don't start from the beginning.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
What is your question?
The question is, what kind of opportunities y'all giving men to raise, to be in the lives of fathers, making the money to be accountable, to be fathers and pay their child support and not have to look over their shoulders?
We got
because
you.
I am one of them fathers.
We got you. Perfect question, because it fits into what we wanted to say too. Ladies, how do we mentor and advocate and use fathers in our programs? Sherry?
So at the organization, actually all of our facilitators are classroom graduates, and they do not have college degrees when we hire them. When we hire them, they come in, they make about $40,000 to $45,000. Some of them are from the reentry community. Some of them are just dads who have come through the program, and we saw a skill in them that was just a natural leader. And then we say, once we hire you, we're going to get you enrolled in community college. You're going to start with the human services degree, and we allow them to go to school during working hours. We give them about 10 hours a week, and we buy their books. And as long as they want to stay in school, we support them in that. Our employment and economic stability services to all of our dads actually dually enrolls them with the career centers. And so they have about $15,000, and we help them to get credential trainings and enter into whatever industry they like. We don't name it. We work with about 8 different industries. And so that's kind of what we do.
Okay. Ava?
Yeah, I actually went to my HR and reduced all those requirements, you know, to say that you have to have a 4-year degree and all that. I'm like, you can have a GED with experience. And so I think that's what that's what we do, period, right? Like with fathers, with fathers in the program. And I always hire a graduate of the program, and they usually do well. I just was on Facebook this morning. One of my graduates, I hired him. He was 13 years out of prison. And I really had to fight to hire him. But he was a dad. His child was older. He was able to re-engage with his dad, and now he's a boss of something. And so I was telling him on Facebook, I was like, I'm so proud of you. And he like, all right, boss, I'm doing my thing. I'm like, that's what bosses do, right? We boss up. And so we're always looking to hire that graduate because they have the experience and being able to bring them on. But what you said is what we breathe and do every day.
Right.
Right. Pat, anything
Oh,
to add?
well, let me be clear. We're not here to take over the fatherhood movement.
Heck
Let me
no.
be real
Well,
clear.
I'm looking for a protege.
Let me be real clear about that. And you know, in our staff, we had close to 100 staff, and it was predominantly male because I believe very strongly in men working with men. There's no doubt about that. And this has to be, men need to be role models and men need to work with men. But the fact of the matter is, we're going to go back to, in Tennessee, 85% of the women are working in the department, and we have to educate women and advocate that women about the importance of fatherhood. And so and we're just coming alongside, and wherever we are planted, we're going to do our best to serve fathers. And so this is not about, you know, men not being a part of this movement.
Yeah. Even in the program that I started, we did co-facilitation, male and female. Very important because we're also modeling healthy relationships, y'all. Not just parenting. So we use male and females to co-model that. And we do, and I am a teacher. I'm a social worker. I'm a teacher. I believe in teaching. And so we mentor everyone because there are skills you bring as a man to this project that you're just born with, and they're living skills. But when you run an agency or you start your own nonprofit or you go after a federal grant, those are other skills. And if you don't have them, you will not win. You will not get the money. So we have that skill. There are women who have that skill. And so we use them, but we also believe in succession planning. We want to pass that on. And so we do take men and mentor them so that one day they will be able to run their own organizations. When they go for a federal grant, they will win because the competition is stiff. I know how to do that. And that's what we do. But we only work with people who want to be worked with. We don't chase anybody. We don't chase you. We don't beg you because we don't have that kind of energy. And as y'all can tell from this hair, I'm kind of old. And so I just can't do that chasing stuff. But if you want to work with us, we want to work with you. And we work with people all over the country. These ladies not only work in their states, they work nationally. And they are here to support you. But definitely, there are skills you have and there are skills we have, and we need to share. Because when we share, as you saw yesterday, that boat rowing in a circle, we will not roll in a circle. We'll get to our destination. Okay.
All right. Mike with the mic is chasing the hands up. We have a question over here.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Crystal Glenn. I'm with the Department of Human Services. My question is for Sherry. You mentioned earlier that you were having about 100 participants out of a 6-quarter session per year. Many of our groups here kind of struggle to have participants. What were you able to do to seek out those fathers, those participants, mother or father? What were you able to do to build that trust within the community so they sought you out rather than you seeking those participants?
So we've been in business for 25 years, and 63% of those referred to us come from word of mouth. So it really was just the success that we had with individuals. And so they would tell their brothers, cousins, uncles about the organization. But then we also have some pretty robust partnerships. Child Support Enforcement sends out the letter to establish paternity. I think they do it every Thursday. We would set up tables at those sessions, and they actually put on the bottom of the letter that goes out to all the fathers If you need assistance with fatherhood material support, contact Fathers and Family Support Center. We have contracts with the fathering courts. We have the child support docket that happens in 2 of our city courts and 1 county court. And so we act as a diversionary program for those participants. We also go into 6 prisons. We've gone as far as Forest City, Arkansas, to find out how many of those men will be released over the next 12 months and how many are coming back to St. Louis, Missouri. And so one of our locations is actually in a transition center. We also do work with youth. So we do a mentoring program. And so for some of the youth who have fathers in the home, don't have their fathers, we actually connect with the fathers through the youth that we serve. And that's just how it works. But again, our facilitators have street credit. You know, these were the men who people counted out. They knew they would never change their life. They would end up dying in prison. And so that street credit also allows our facilitators to go out and they can say, hey, man, this is something you need to do. And they'll say, yes, one of them named Slaughter. Of all the names he could have, his name is Slaughter. So they'll say, yeah, Slaughter, because if you changed, I know I can do it. You know, so
Slaughter.
That's just how we do it. We go out, flyers in hand.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add to that, even though you didn't ask me the question, 48% of my participants come from Facebook Messenger. So never underestimate social media and never underestimate. People say young people aren't on social media. Yes, they are. They just not saying nothing. So we get inbox. It answers you right away. It dings my phone. So no matter what time you do that, if you ask me if my phone dings at 10 o'clock tonight, I could be like, yeah, what's the best time to call you tomorrow?
Right.
And so it's real simple. It took us a while to build that way, but we have a platform just using social media. We use all those other things too. And then I also do a lot of street outreach. So boots on ground. Right, that's what we kind of call it. I wore my tennis shoes today as
flyers in clubs.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, and
flyers in clubs.
Flyers in the strip clubs too. It always.
Yeah, it does.
No, you
gotta go where they are.
No, that the fathers that you all are trying to reach who need the services, they not coming to Sunday school. They not in basic Bible doctrine. They at the club. Put the flyers in the bathroom.
Right.
With the little tear off.
Yes. Yeah.
We also sit in the club as well.
You gotta go where they go. And again, at 3:30, we really are going to talk about that recruitment and retention, because I'm telling you, that's why our session is called, If You Build It, Will They Come? No, they won't if you don't have it together. And we're going to talk about how you do that. So just to put that shameless plug in there again.
Can I add one thing?
Sure.
I think one of the important things about all the people in this room and the department is that men generally have not trusted systems. A lot of systems have failed men. They've dropped out of school. They are incarcerated. Their driver's license is taken from them. You can hardly think of one system that has been good to them.
Exactly.
And so they're generally, going into a system that says it's good, they still don't really trust it. So the partnerships with the local grantees that have that, credibility already in place is a great partnership, because what it brings together is they know where the guys are and how to get them. But you all also have the resources to do. And the other most important thing that you have is you have the stroke of a pen. Sometimes something can happen just because, and it might take a guy to navigate his way through something. It might take him, a year. And then somebody sitting behind the desk or at the computer can resolve that problem in 15 minutes because he got to the right person.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's what's so important about community-based organizations working with agencies. Everybody's got something, just make it come together and work.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have another question right over here.
Good morning. Feliciano Lewis, Men for Men, Atlanta, Georgia. Men for Men LLC, Atlanta, Georgia. I can attest to 2 of the panelists, Ms. Tillis and Ms. Avis. They spoke into my life my first year trying to get this going. Ms. Tillis, I was laughing with my wife this morning. I said, she was the lady that told me, stop working in it and work on it out in LA. And so, and I was like, what does she mean by that? And I had to go back. My wife has a doctorate, so she kind of broke it down for me a little bit. 4 years later, I'm the plenary speaker tomorrow in Atlanta at Region 4 Head Start about fatherhood. She has a guy, Mr. Reggie. I have that picture at every one of my centers about Mr. Reggie. Avis, I kind of spoke yesterday. When they say this whole thing about, come on, we're men, we're very competitive. Going out on the circuit, the men was kind of like, yeah, you coming, but you're gonna take a little bit of mine. These two ladies actually came into my program. We brought Avis in because my women, like you all said, was like, oh, he female bashing. Avis came in and did a 2-day workshop, and I'm telling you, I just sent out probably about 10 emails sending my fatherhood posters out because they're asking for them. You know, it's just amazing. Miss Tillis actually in LA, in between sessions, she said, come here and sit down. Let me tell you a little something. Yeah. So I want to say to that, what made you grab that bushy-eyed, I'm ready to go, don't know what I'm doing, and help me guide myself to now, 4 years later, my wife and I just got back from Hawaii talking about fatherhood. God has really been good, but you ladies, I'm here today because I was honored that you all was going to be on the same stage.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Sherry?
Thank you so much. And I remember our conversation when you stood up yesterday. I said, oh, that's old boy from California. But you were doing the work. And I remember part of our conversation, you were so busy trying to actually be hands-on that, again, you weren't working on your organization. You had some young men you were bringing along. And I told you, well, get out of their way. Let them do what they need to do, because the population that you're trying to reach is going to identify with them at this point. You go get the money.
That's right.
And I think for me, when you called me, I just have the expertise also of being able to say to women what is true, right? And being able to speak to women's heart. And don't be bitter, become better. And so a lot of times women work in the field, but they've had experiences with their father for fatherlessness, and then they've maybe chosen the wrong co-parent, like, and then now they're mad. And so they're working in systems, but they hold the power and the control to make a difference in those men's lives. And sometimes their stuff, I say another word when I'm in different places, but their stuff gets in the way, right? Their stuff gets in the way, and then it blinds and they become biased in how they're operating and really don't even know that they're doing it. So making that safe space to be able to say, hey, yes, I love men. I love Black men. I work for them, but I also love the Black family. I can't love the Black family without loving the Black man, and neither can you. He has to be able to be present. He is the leader. He is the person that starts this. He is the leader. You need to allow him to lead. And guarantee you, women, if a man leads, we follow. It's not anything about this taking away from the women, taking away who you are as a person, as you're right. And did I not mention that my husband is the facilitator of all of the men that have been through our program, like 3,000 men, right? So I'm not really doing this alone, right? It is that paired together work, that male and female, that makes a difference and makes the strongest program that you could have.
Okay, thank you for all your questions. Ladies, some final comments.
Okay, why don't you all start? Pat, want to start that in, final comment?
Well, I think that one of the things that I'm so impressed about all the ladies up here, and I think I can speak for myself, is one thing that we have is perseverance. Oh, yeah. And I think that is a wonderful trait that we possess. I think women in general possess that. But my word to Tennessee is persevere. Persevere, because we know that this is not about winning a popularity contest. We know it's not about, hopefully, about the fad of the day. We're working to change a culture. Mm-hmm. And it's more than a movement. It's a culture shift. And so, and I know that you'll do this, Commissioner, and all of the folks that are supporting him, but we have to build a sustainable infrastructure here that supports fathers. This can't be something that we get all rah-rah about and then it goes away, or when a commissioner decides he's going to retire, it doesn't go away with a person, but it's something that embodies in everybody. And when you leave here, you will be the advocate that no matter where you are, you will become a part of that sustainable infrastructure that helps shift a culture in a state like Tennessee that says we love, we embrace our families, and fathers are an important part of our families.
Mm-hmm.
What I would simply add is I know that this is a room full of brilliant practitioners, but you do not have to create anything on your own or spend lots of time trying to figure out how to do this work. We are here. We are a phone call and an email away. We have made all the mistakes for you already.
Yes.
And, you know, I go in office every day. So just reach out. Please don't hesitate to follow up with us if you have questions about certain curriculum populations, how to do certain things, how to advocate with your state. We figured it out by trial and error. And so we can save you a lot of time.
Mm-hmm. I think because I started this work from the healthy marriage perspective and then going into fatherhood, and because this is talking about a female panel, I will leave something for the females. Joshua 1:9 says, "Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." There is a woman sitting in this room, and you know you're called to be a female practitioner, but you just didn't kind of know how to do it, right? You're like, I know that I'm supposed to stand in this space. So I say to you, don't be afraid. Just get on out here and do it. And you got a friend in me. I'll walk with you. I'll talk with you. I'll help you. If there's a father practitioner too, I'll take you too. But I will walk with you, talk with you, guide you, direct you again so that you don't make the mistakes. And I will say to this state that surely you are ready, and surely under the direction, you will do great. You will be great. And I'll see you next year.
That's right. That's right. I just want to say, for all you government workers, I was a government worker. I worked for for a DC government, and I worked for ACF 32 years and 10 months, and I retired, and I am still here having a life. We do the work, but we have rules and regulations that can get in the way sometimes. And so ladies and gentlemen who work for the government, it is your job to figure out how to use the flexibility in those rules to serve your fathers and your moms and your children. Do not let that be the reason you can't do this job. You can do it. I have done it. And when I got an opportunity to retire, I did. And then I continued to work in fatherhood. But I know sometimes it's very frustrating to be a civil servant, because you're doing what you're told to do, what the legislation tells you. But you know, and I know, there is wiggle room. And we use it if we like somebody, you know? You know we do. The regs say this, but we like you, Clarence, so we're going to put you ahead. Ladies, we got to like our fathers, put them ahead, and use the knowledge that you have to lift them up. Because the best thing that a mother can get for Mother's Day is a helpful father. Lord have mercy. And I'm going to stop.
I can't wait for that breakout session. We're going to call every Uber driver in town, tell them to wiggle on over, get a lift from these ladies right here. You guys are great. Thank you, Geneva Ware-Rice, Avis Files, Cherie Tillis, and Patricia Littlejohn.